every day I like to read a comic, especially right before I go to bed. That adds up. Today I want to talk about my favorite reads of 2026, which doesn't mean that they are books that came out this year necessarily, because I have a huge penchant for older books. Actually, I'm going to take my wife for a spin, because first we're going to look in the Brooks box. Shout out to the homie Brooks. This is going to be my first entry. This is Daredevil. This is Omnibus 1 by Mark Waid. Omnibus will have a bunch of might have a couple different writers or different artists. Majority of this is Mark Waid, and then it changes artists by the end. Why I really enjoy this run is because it looks quite different from older Daredevil runs. I love Ed Brubaker. My favorite run is by Brian Michael Bendis, and those are really dark. Mark Waid ended up just having a little bit more of a lightness in his storytelling. We have him and Foggy who end up fighting quite a bit during it. We also have different enemies like Stiltman who feel like just pretty 80s in itself. But even though you have like the slapstick villain, Mark Waid does a great job of introducing the villains in a way that respects your time. Overall, I like some of the storylines because we do see Spider-Man, we see some of the typical heroes, even Punisher falls in there. But as you move along in the story, even right here, we have Mole Man. As we move along in the story, it gets a little bit darker and darker, which I thought is always a pretty cool combination of having a comic that looks a little bit lighter, but then darker themes. I can also say there are a lot of villains here that are really great. If you look at this and you're like, I'm not sure how I feel because of the art style, don't sleep on that one. Let's hop to a compendium. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles IDW run. I love this. The first 50 issues, I would say, are just about as perfect as you can get in a comic run. There are themes of reincarnation that happen off bat. So we're not just looking at these Ninja Turtles, we're looking at them who were reincarnated after their lives were taken many, many years ago. Also like kind of seeing the different relationships that we have. We have Casey, we have April, we have the Ninja Turtles who all have different friends and people who they meet, like Raphael meets Casey. We have Michelangelo who meets the pizza kid, I forget his name, Donatello, who ends up becoming friends with Harold. And then we have Leonardo, who's super close to Master Splinter, who mirrors Karai and Shredder. I'd say there's a saga in this called City Fall where, spoiler alert, Leonardo ends up getting brainwashed by Shredder. It is some of the most profound, but also just deep and profound are the same thing. Profound action and just deep themes that are happening and going on there. Ninja Turtles is a lot of fun. There's action, there's humor. And if you get this compendium, please be warned that it doesn't have anything from the micro series, so you will be missing out on some things there. Next up, on the Omnibus side, this one took me by surprise. This is Green Arrow, Archer's Quest, Kevin Smith, Brad Meltzer. We have a bunch of different writers and artists. This right here should be quite reminiscent to those of us who have seen Justice League Unlimited or any of those 2000s cartoons. I honestly was legit shocked on how adult this comic was. So don't be taken off guard where you see a style like this and say, I'm expecting maybe Justice League level violence or themes. It gets way deeper than this. We find Green Arrow, who is brought back to life, and he isn't brought back to life in a cheap way. I'm not going to reveal how that happens, but he's very confused because he doesn't really remember being gone. For a lot of other people, time has passed. Why do I love that? I love that in comics because oftentimes time does not pass in the same way. So a lot of these characters, like Roy Harper, aka Speedy, he turns into Arsenal. And there are a lot of jokes happening where Green Arrow's like, I can't believe like Batman and I literally just flipped to it. Bruh, I literally flipped to it. This is the page kind of talking about how they all had sidekicks and how interesting that was, that you have these teenagers who are fighting. I really enjoy that because it's talking about legacy. And oftentimes in comics, they're afraid of aging the characters because characters make money, and when you age them, you run out. But I really liked it. Mia Durden was a very compelling character as well. She was a like 15 or 16-year-old prostitute, which is kind of oxymoronic in that way. She is being exploited, and then she ends up finding her way into the Arrowverse. Great relationship between Green Lantern and Green Arrow, between Speedy, and then also there are a lot of really cool enemies that are in this. Genuinely, this isn't just a trick arrow filled book. This is one that is full of action and questioning, and then there are a lot of consequences that happen there too. There's Kyle Rayner, who is probably my personal favorite Green Lantern so far, but we'll see if that changes because I have some Green Lantern coming in the mail. Let me just pick one more. Let me relax for now. Let's talk about Scalped. This one I actually ended up reading when we were in Estes. Where were we? Where were we just? Where were we in the mountains? Yeah, we were in Fair Play. I read this when I was in Fair Play quite a bit, and kind of a little bit before and after. We find our main character, his name here is Dash, and he used to grow up on a reservation. He left when he was 13 years old. He got caught up in a lot of trouble, and then he was split into two worlds. He comes back to the reservation where he meets Red Crow, which is this gentleman right here. And Red Crow believes that Dash is solely working for him, but the reality is that he's working for him and he's also working for the FBI. There is a lot of legacy in Scalped as well. There's a lot of trouble. And it really is, I mentioned this in the past video, it's kind of like a train wreck. It's like a train wreck in the best way. You can't look away because these characters keep on devolving in really just damaging ways, and you want the best for all these characters, and I think Jason Aaron did an awesome job developing a lot of them. So you have this reservation, you have the casino that's coming in the reservation, we have alcoholism, we have a lot of pain and struggle, there's action, and there's a lot of dialogue. I don't want to ever scare anyone away from a comic that has a lot of dialogue. It's a comic book, so it's heavy on the book. Overall, if you're looking for one that might be noir style, that might be action filled and also has a lot of mystery and fighting, then I would suggest Scalped. I would also suggest that you would be of age, either have your parents' permission if you are under 18. I honestly wouldn't suggest it if you're under 18, but that is just me. So those are some of my favorite runs. We're just going to talk about 2 other single issue runs and then I'll send you on your way. All right, we're gonna get a quick drink as well. We're not sponsored by Nurri. We are not sponsored by Nurri. We used our own money for this. This is the ultra filtered vanilla milkshake one. There's some smoke going off there. I know y'all heard that sip. I love it because it really tastes like, there used to be a Nesquik shake that was cookies and cream back in the day, and it tastes like the cream portion of the cookies and cream. So for me, this takes me back to being a kid. So I really, really like Nurri. You know, try a sip. My wife is trying to sip off cam. What do you give it out of 10?
8.
She gives it an 8 out of 10. I like that. Yeah, I honestly think it's really good. And it's low in sugar. We're just gonna talk about 2 single issues here for ongoings that I've really enjoyed reading. First one, okay, so that's all that one. I think my here. We have Captain America by Chip Zdarsky. I always want to put respect on Captain America's name because when I was probably 8 years old, I went with my dad to take your kid to work day, and I stumbled on Captain America online for a little thing that I could print off and color in. I just thought, I think it must have been him from the Ultimates run, and I was just totally enamored with Captain America. And as I started growing up, watching Earth's Mightiest Heroes and everything, his character just always resonated with me. Why I like this run is because it ends up taking place after 9/11, and it's a lot of interesting themes with Doctor Doom. I think Doctor Doom is in too many books. I was looking at solicitations for later this year, and he just keeps on showing up. Shout out Ravi. And we are introduced to a new Captain America, Dave Colton. And I just want to say, I feel like the only people, in my humble opinion, that can really hold the Captain America mantle are Steve Rogers, as well as Bucky Barnes, Winter Soldier. I think the other characters there do a great job having their own characterization, and I understand legacy and everything, but I've never been a fan of Falcon Captain America, for instance. But this is a run where, again, we see all these different regimes. There are a lot of good political themes that are happening here, a lot of action, and then we're introduced to new characters. So if you're kind of fascinated with Captain America or wondering, is he just a propaganda character, I'd say that you should check that book out because Chip Zdarsky does a great job representing him in a really good light. Looking through there, shout out to Daredevil, shout out to Punisher. It's kind of cool that we're getting 2 of those ongoings right now. I'm looking for Ordained, so I'll just talk about it, and if I can't find it, I'll show it in B-roll. The last one I'm going to suggest is Ordained by Robert Venditti. I really enjoyed this read. I am not Catholic myself personally, but I'm always interested when you see a writer, or you see, like, in media, when people are representing a different religious group, or just in general different views. We find a man who is a priest now in a Catholic church, but he also has a past where he has a lot of experience in fighting and shooting. And he has turned away from that, so he's kind of an apostate away from action and violence. turns into a turns into a priest, and he finds himself in a hospital where all of a sudden there's a man who confesses all of his crimes to him. Now, the man ends up pulling away from the last rites, so he's like, I'm gonna die. He wakes up the next day, he's like, I'm not gonna die. So he sends people after Father Roy to kill him. It is only 3 issues right now, and then we're gonna have one more surprise issue. Actually, 4 issues, because there's like a special by The Machine, which I must have as well somewhere. I don't know where that one is. I really like Robert Venditti. I like the way that he writes. I like his ties to Catholicism through family. I'm just really excited to see this also get adapted to a movie. I know Colin Farrell will be acting there as well. A lot of different single issues. I'm going to be cycling these ones out to others, or I might turn in some, give some to friends, sell some. But the ones I really want to keep, those are the ones that will stay in my collection. I'd love to hear what y'all have read this year, not just comics, but books wise. I should do a book video one of these days. But there's a lot of reading to be done, a lot of various comics to be read. Don't feel like you are missing out if you're not keeping up with everything. As you see, I read a lot from the early 2000s or the 90s, so there's a lot out there for you. I'd love to hear what you're reading. If not, more power to you. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you all next time.